Hey guys, it's Thursday, March 21st, and this is Treasure Christ Today. We are in Genesis 18 and 19. We got a lot of verses to read today, so grab your Bibles and follow along with us as we treasure Jesus Christ every single day in his word. Starting in Genesis 18, verse 1, the Lord appeared to Abraham at the oaks of Mamre while he was sitting at the entrance of his tent during the heat of the day. He looked up and he saw three men standing near him. When he saw them, he ran from the entrance of the tent to meet them, bowed to the ground, and said, "O Lord, if I have found favor with you, please do not go on past your servant. Let a little water be brought, that you may wash your feet and rest yourselves under the tree. I will bring a bit of bread so that you may strengthen yourselves. This is why you have passed your servant's way. Later you can continue on." "Yes," they replied, "do as you have said." So Abraham hurried into the tent and said to Sarah, "Quick, knead 3 measures of fine flour and make bread." Abraham ran to the herd and got a tender, choice calf. He gave it to a young man who hurried to prepare it. Then Abraham took curds and milk, as well as the calf that he had prepared, and set them before the men. He served them as they ate under the tree. "Where is your wife Sarah?" they asked him. "There, in the tent," he answered. "The Lord said, I will certainly come back to you in about a year's time, and your wife Sarah will have a son." Now Sarah was listening at the entrance of the tent behind him. Abraham and Sarah were old and getting on in years. Sarah had passed the age of childbearing, so she laughed to herself. "After I am worn out and my Lord is old, will I have delight?" But the Lord asked Abraham, "Why did Sarah laugh, saying, 'Can I really have a baby when I'm old?' Is anything impossible for the Lord? At the appointed time, I will come back to you, and in about a year, she will have a son." Sarah denied it. "I did not laugh," she said, because she was afraid. But he replied, "No, you did laugh." The men got up from there and looked out over Sodom, and Abraham was walking with them to see them off. Then the Lord said, "Should I hide what I am about to do from Abraham? Abraham is to become a great and powerful nation, and all the nations of the earth will be blessed through him. For I have chosen him so that he will command his children and his house after him to keep the way of the Lord by doing what is right and just. This is how the Lord will fulfill to Abraham what he promised to him." Then the Lord said, "The outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is immense, and their sin is extremely serious. I will go down to see if what they have done justifies the cry that has come up to me. If not, I will find out." The men turned from there and went towards Sodom, while Abraham remained standing before the Lord. Abraham stepped forward and said, "Will you really sweep away the righteous with the wicked? What if there are 50 righteous people in the city? Will you sweep it away instead of sparing the place for the sake of the 50 righteous people who are in it? You could not possibly do such a thing, to kill the righteous with the wicked, treating the righteous and the wicked alike. You could not possibly do that. Won't the judge of the whole earth do what is just?" The Lord said to him then, "If I find 50 righteous people in the city of Sodom, I will spare the whole place for their sake." Then Abraham answered, "Since I have ventured to speak to my Lord, even though I am dust and ashes, suppose the 50 righteous lack 5. Will you destroy the whole city for lack of 5? He replied, "I will not destroy it if I find 45 there." Then he spoke to him again. "Suppose 40 are found there," he answered. "I will not do it on account of 40." Then he said, "Let my Lord not be angry, and I will speak further. Suppose 30 are found there." He answered, "I will not do it if I find 30 there." Then he said, "Since I have ventured to speak to my Lord, suppose 20 are found there." He replied, "I will not destroy it on account of 20." Then he said, "Let my Lord not be angry. I will speak one more time. Suppose 10 are found there." He answered, I will not destroy it on account of 10. When the Lord had finished speaking with Abraham, he departed, and Abraham returned to his place. In chapter 19, verse 1, the two angels entered Sodom in the evening as Lot was sitting in Sodom's gateway. When Lot saw them, he got up to meet them. He bowed his face to the ground and said, "My lords, turn aside to your servant's house, wash your feet, and spend the night. Then you can get up early and go on your way." "No," they said, "we would rather spend the night in the square." But he urged them so strongly that they followed him and went into his house. He prepared a feast and baked unleavened bread for them, and they ate. Before they went to bed, the men of the city of Sodom, both young and old, the whole population, surrounded the house. They called out to Lot and said, "Where are the men who came to you tonight? Send them out to us so that we can have sex with them." Lot went out to them at the entrance and shut the door behind him. He said, "Don't do this evil, my brothers. Look, I've got two daughters who haven't been intimate with a man. I'll bring them out to you, and you can do whatever you want to them. However, don't do anything to these men, because they have come under the protection of my roof." "Get out of the way," they said, adding, "This one who came here as a sojourner and an alien, but he's acting like a judge. Now we'll do more harm to you than to them." They put pressure on Lot and came up to break down the door. But the angels, reaching out, brought Lot into the house with them and shut the door. They struck the men who were at the entrance of the house, both young and old, with blindness, so that they were unable to find the entrance. Then the angels said to Lot, "Do you have anyone else here, a son-in-law, your sons and daughters, anyone else in the city who belong to you? Get them out of this place. For we are about to destroy this place because the outcry against its people is so great before the Lord that the Lord has sent us to destroy it." So Lot went out and spoke to his sons-in-laws who were going to marry his daughters. "Get up," he said, "get out of this place, for the Lord is about to destroy the city." But his sons-in-laws thought he was joking. At daybreak, the angels urged Lot on, "Get up, take your wife and your two daughters who are here, or you will be swept away in the punishment of the city." But he hesitated because of the Lord's compassion for him. The men grabbed his hand, his wife's hand, and the hands of his two daughters. They brought him out and left him outside the city. As soon as the angels got them outside, one of them said, "Run for your lives. Don't look back and don't stop anywhere on the plain. Run to the mountains or you will be swept away." But Lot said to them, "No, my lords, please. Your servant has indeed found favor with you, and you have shown me great kindness by saving my life, but I can't run to the mountains. The disaster will overtake me and I will die. Look, this town is close enough for me to flee to. It's a small place. Please let me run to it. It's only a small place, isn't it? So that I can survive." And he said to him, "All right, I'll grant your request about this matter too, and will not demolish the town you mentioned. Hurry up, run to it, for I cannot do anything until you get there." Therefore, the name of the city is Zoar. The sun had risen over the land when Lot reached Zoar, and then out of the sky the Lord rained on Sodom and Gomorrah. Then out of the sky the Lord rained on Sodom and Gomorrah burning sulfur from the Lord. He demolished these cities, the entire plain, all the inhabitants of the city, whatever grew on the ground. But Lot's wife looked back and became a pillar of salt. Early in the morning, Abraham went to the place where he had stood before the Lord, and he looked down toward the Sodom and Gomorrah and all the land of the plain, and he saw that smoke was going up from the land like the smoke of a furnace. So it was when God destroyed the cities of the plain. He remembered Abraham and brought Lot out of the middle of the upheaval when he demolished the cities where Lot had lived. Now Lot departed from Zoar and lived in the mountains along with his two daughters, because he was afraid to live in Zoar. Instead, he and his two daughters lived in a cave. Then the firstborn said to the younger, "Our father is old, and there is no man in the land to sleep with us, as is the custom of all in the land. Come, let's get our father to drink wine, so that we can sleep with him and preserve our father's line." So they got their father to drink wine that night, and the firstborn came and slept with her father. He did not know when she lay down or when she got up. The next day the firstborn said to the younger, "Look, I slept with my father last night. Let's get him to drink wine again tonight, so that you can go sleep with him, and we can preserve our father's line." That night they got their father to drink wine, and the younger went and slept with him. He did not know when she lay down or when she got up. So both of Lot's daughters became pregnant by their father. The firstborn gave birth to a son and named him Moab. He is the father of the Moabites of today. The younger also gave birth to a son, and she named him Ben-Ammi. He is the father of the Ammonites of today. This is the word of the Lord. Here in Genesis 18 and 19, we hear a story in three sections. In the first section, the Lord appears to Abraham. There are three men who come down, and Abraham acknowledges and recognizes one of them is the Lord. He runs out to meet them. An elderly man in this society did not run, but he runs out. He bows to the ground and he says, "Oh Lord, Adonai, if I have found favor, please don't go on past your servant. Come and stay with me and let me fix a little meal for you." Abraham says, I'll fix you just a little bit of a morsel to eat. And then he goes and he fixes a feast of baked cakes, and he slaughters one of the calves in his herd, and he provides this meal for the Lord. Shows the righteousness of Abraham and his honoring of the Lord. And in this time, in verse 9, the Lord asks where Abraham's wife is. Where is Sarah? And there's this back and forth interchange of the fact that God will keep his promise that Sarah will have a son. Sarah, of course, responds to this just like Abraham responded to this yesterday. We saw Abraham laugh, and so does Sarah laugh. But God, in his graciousness, says, "No, you will have a son in a year's time." Then after this story, verse 16 picks up the second section of the text. And then the second section, the two men that are with the Lord go on from there. The Lord stays with Abraham, and the two men make their way to Sodom. But while they're making their way to Sodom, there is an interchange between Abraham and the Lord, and it establishes a principle here. Abraham asks, "Will you destroy the entire city if there are 50 righteous men in it?" He goes all the way down to if there are 10 righteous men into it, and it establishes a principle. God judges righteously. And so God says, "I will not destroy all of the city on account of 10 righteous men. If there are 10 within that city, I will not judge it." The principle here we'll wind up realizing is that there are not 10 men in the city. And so instead of judging everyone in the city, we encounter a story in which God comes to mercifully save Lot and his family. There aren't 10 men that are righteous. Indeed, Lot isn't even considered to be righteous in this story. It is a merciful, compassionate exercise for God to save Lot on account of Abraham. And so we begin in chapter 19 in this story. After God has assured to Abraham he will not destroy if there are 10 that are there, two angels enter into Sodom. These two men come to Sodom, and noteworthy, Lot does respond to these men just like Abraham responded to the three in the last chapter. He comes out, he meets them, and he falls face down on the ground. This is a righteous response of Lot, showing hospitality and of concern for the men, because he knows if they stay in the square, they will be abused. So he prepares this meal for them. And in the middle of the night, right before bedtime, the entire town of Sodom, all the men, young and old, surround the city and demand for the men to be handed over to them that they may have sexual intercourse with them. Lot goes out to meet them, and then Lot wickedly here responds, trying to protect the men, offers up his daughters to these men. We see again the effects of the Genesis 3 curse against mankind and the wickedness that it enters into family relationships. Husbands and wives are messed up. Now we see a story where fathers and daughters are messed up because of sin. But then the angels protect Lot. They grab him back inside and they blind all of the men. And they tell Lot, we have to leave now. Lot goes to his sons-in-laws and pleads with them to leave the city, but they laugh and think it's a joke. And so ultimately, the angels lead out of the city of Sodom Lot, his wife, and his two daughters, but they give them instructions to flee and to run away and to not look back. God is going to judge and pour out his righteous wrath against the city, and they are not to hesitate. They're not to turn back. They're not to question God's judgment. We saw in the story that Lot's wife does turn back. She not only just looks at a glance over her shoulder, this references here a turning back against the promise of the Lord and the direction of the Lord to a longing back to the city. And as a result, God judges her. She's turned into a pillar of salt in that moment. So only Lot and his two daughters escape God's wrath poured out. Now, noteworthy here, there is signs in this narrative of reflecting when God poured his wrath out by raining down water on the earth. But God promised Noah he would no longer flood the earth. But we do have here the raining of burning sulfur coming down as an act of God's judgment. Well, after this story, the final section here in Genesis 19 is a story of more wickedness between Lot and his daughter. They escape from Zoar and they go to live in a cave near the Dead Sea. And the daughters, concerned that they can't have any children, decide to get their dad drunk. Just like Noah was drunk and then he was uncovered, these daughters get their father Lot drunk and he is uncovered, and they have sexual relationships, incestuous sexual relationships with their father. The sons that are born to these women, one is named Moab and one is named Ben-Ammi, which means son of Ammi. And from these two come the Moabites and the Ammonites, two of the primary peoples that will make war against the people of God, the Israelites, throughout their entire history. And so out of sexual immorality and sin will be birthed a people that will continue in sin and continue fighting against the Lord. What we see here in this text is the devastating results of rejecting God's good plan for us. And so we want to be a people today that treasure Jesus Christ, and instead of turning back, instead of looking over our shoulder and returning back, we want to press forward and obey Jesus with all of our heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love you guys. I hope you have a great day. We'll see you back here tomorrow for Treasure Christ Today. Grace and peace.